All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's Matt here from ChillTCG. All right, so Chill Series 11 just wrapped up last night. It was our first tournament of our second season of the Chill Series. It was sponsored by Atlas Collectibles. Big shout out to Atlas. Big shout out to everybody who played tonight. We had 170 players. It was a great turnout, great tournament. And today, right now, we're going to be looking at the top 16 deck lists. Taking a look at each player's run and taking a look at their decks. We actually have a lot of variety in this specific tournament this week, so I'm really excited to take a look at all these decks. But with that being said, guys, let's get right into it. First up, we have Diego Milla, and he was he's from from Chile. Okay, so he went 6-3-0. He was playing pground. Let's take a look at his run. So got a couple wins early game, beat Luke Metal, Lightning Mewtwo. Couple losses after that, E-turn ADP, and then he beat Lapras, beat another pground, beat Blounds, and then beat Luke Metal, and then ended up losing to Lucas here playing Poison Eternatus in his first round of top 16 cut. Now let's take a look at the deck lists. Okay, so it looks like a pretty standard New Age pground. When we see a lot of these pground lists, we're probably going to see them to be very similar, but right off the gate, we see that we have 2 Boltons, 2 Dedenne, 2 pground, and then 2 Mewtwo GXs. These are really probably the most important cards in the deck, the cards that you want to be drawing the most of, so that makes total sense. We got the Crobat, Eldegoss, the Choo Choo there, tag team. We got the Tapu Koko Prism Star and the Vikavolt V. Again, a very standard Pokemon lineup for this deck. Some people might not be running 2 Mewtwo's, some people might not be running 2 Pgrounds, but other than that, everything seems super standard. Supporter line seems standard too with the Marnies, Boss's Orders Research. And then this deck, of course, is running hammers. I'm not sure if all the decks we'll look at here with pground are running hammers, but this one is for sure. Got 4 of those, Quick Balls, Energy Switch, 2 Cherish Balls, Stamps, 2 Radar, 1 Air Balloon, no Big Charm. To keep in mind, a lot of times this deck is running Big Charm, but not in this one particularly. We only see 1 Chaotic Swell, and then we see the 13 count of Energy. All in all, very standard list in terms of how pground goes. Not a bad thing. Not a bad thing at all. Very good deck list. So big shout out to Diego there for getting number 16 in the tournament. I'm going to try to run through these a bit quicker than I have in previous videos, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes, right? Next one is, okay, so here's the thing. This man here, I actually had to get on to a call to learn how to pronounce his name. After him pronouncing it for me, I'm not confident that I'll be able to pronounce it correctly, but I'll try my best. So it's Gearhart, Tyne, I believe, is how you pronounce that name, or at least somewhat how you pronounce that name. So I'm going to call him Tyne. Tyne got 15th in the tournament. He is from the Netherlands, and he was running Eternatus. So let's take a look at his run. Tyne was running Eternatus, so he ended up beating ADP. Got that loss to Colossal. Again, pretty tough matchup for if you're playing E-turn. Beat another E-turn, beat 2 pgrounds, and then actually he beat 2 Colossals. So, disregard everything that I just said. He was 2 for 3 against Colossals in the tournament. Ended up losing to Gearhart here, playing Luke Metal, and then losing to an ADP redground there in top 16. Went 6-3 in the tournament. Let's take a look at his list. Looks like it's a Poison Eternatus variant, which in my opinion is the best way to play Eternatus. Okay, so this is what we're looking at. I got a 4-3 lineup actually of E-turn. A lot of people run 4-4, but in terms of consistency, you don't really need 4 E-turns. But for consistency purposes, some people just run 4 anyway. But he's electing to run 4-3 lineup of Krogan and Toxicroak, giving a bit more priority to these Pokemon, which can be really good for the poison. 4 Crobats makes sense. 2 Crobat Vs also makes sense, and then a Sableye V, which actually is kind of smart in the poison variant as well. Even if your opponent's Pokemon just has some poison damage onto it, like if it's got 5 damage counters, then Sableye's doing like 300 damage or something crazy. So Sableye, I think it's a very good inclusion in this deck. Other than that, supporter count pretty standard. Everything else pretty standard. The 3 Dark City, maybe he can run 4, I don't know. But plenty of Pokemon Search, plenty of switching options. He's only running 2 Hiding Energy on top of 2 Capture. I know a lot of decks run like 4 Hiding Energy in this deck specifically. But he's running a total of 10 energies. That's standard. The total amount of energies is standard for Eternatus. But I think running Capture Energy in this deck as well is also really good. Eternatus VMAX has a colorless energy in its attack cost, so I think running a Capture Energy is very smart. In this deck specifically, Hiding Energy is even better, or is even better than just normal Eternatus, so definitely makes a lot of sense. Big shout out to Tyne. I can't say your name, but I tried my best, bro. Hopefully that was better than last time I said your name. But becoming a regular in the Chill Series tournaments, big shout out to you. And congrats on making number 15th in the tournament. Nice poison E-turn list. I like that list a lot. Next up, we have Divinius, and he was running, again, pground. He's from Indonesia, went 6-3. Let's take a look at his run. So beat E-turn, beat pground, lost to Gabriel Smart there playing E-turn. Gabe had a great run. Beat Vaughn, Decigoons, beat pground, lost to Lightning Mewtwo, and then beat Colossal, which is it's crazy actually that pground beat Colossal, but anything can happen really. Beat Blounds, and then ended up losing to JJTCG here, playing the Psychic Mewtwo deck list here, which also did really, really well in the tournament. But good run from Divinius. Let's see if this pground list is any different than the one that we saw previously. See if my memory is good or not. So straight off the gate, the Pokemon count is exactly the same. The supporter count's a bit different, so he's running 4 research and 3 Marnie instead of 4 Marnie and 3 research. He's also running 1 Yell Grunt on top of the 4 hammers, so that's a bit different. Everything else looks pretty standard, except he's running only 1 electromagnetic radar instead of 2, only 1 Cherish Ball instead of 2, and he's running a Big Charm and an extra swell. So it's a little bit different. I think if I had to choose between these 2 pground lists, I would choose this one. I think that the Yell Grunt can be really good, and I think that the Big Charm is really good, and also Chaotic Swell can be really useful as well. So having multiple of those definitely makes a whole lot of sense. Other than that, very similar deck list, almost exactly the same, other than maybe a few other items, teched in here, extra supporter. But definitely a really good list. Shout out to Divinius, man. I think you got, 14th in the tournament? Hell yeah. Awesome. From Indonesia, so represent. There's another one up here too. But anyway, congrats to you, my man. Next up is Jonathan Patricia. A very good player, very regular here in the online scene. Great to see him play. He's from Chile, of course. Went 6-3, playing Luke Metal. Let's take a look at his run. Lost to Blounds. Yeah, that's a tough matchup. Beat Colossal, Gabe Fernandes. Beat Marlin here playing Poison E-turn. 2 great wins there early in the tournament. Beat Pika, beat ADP, beat this Rillaboom Rowegg combo deck here. Lost to Lightning Mewtwo, beat another pground, and then ended up losing to Blasto Bro, playing Blounds there. So, 2 Blounds matchups, 2 Blounds losses. Pretty tough for Jonathan Patricia there. But let's see how his Luke Metal list looks. This will be interesting, actually. Okay, so very standard Pokemon count, only running 8 Pokemon. The 4 Zacian, 2 Luke Metal, 2 Zamazenta. So we don't see anything like an Aegislash in here. We don't see any other sort of spice into this deck list. Good thing he didn't run into to Decidueye, but that's another story. Pretty standard supporter count here. He is running a Cynthia and Caitlyn on top of all the other ones here that you typically see. I think Cynthia and Caitlyn's also good in this deck for sure. Hammers, yep. Saucers. He's running 2 Dolls. I know a lot of decks probably run maybe more than 2 Dolls for Luke Metal at least. But Dolls make sense. Tag Call for that Tag Call engine with the multiple tag team cards in here. Tool Scrapper, 4 Goggles, 1 Swell, and then 13 Energy. Right now in the format, 13 Energy seems to be like the sweet spot. If you run 10 basic energies and then 3 special, it seems to just sort of be like, the ideal sort of ratio between those 2 types of energies in most decks. Big shout out to John here. Great deck list. Luke Metal, in my opinion, is still one of the best decks in the format. If I were to play Luke Metal right now, I would probably tech in an Aegislash just because I feel like, if you do end up going against that Altaria control or like a Decidueye or Decigoons, then, you're going to be in a tough spot. But, for consistency reasons, I think that this deck is definitely really good. Just doesn't have, as good of a matchup spread against some of those other decks. But either way, John, that's a really great Luke Metal list. I like this one a lot. And congrats on, placing well in the tournament, getting 13th. Big shout out to you. Next up is Jake Gearhart, another resident Luke Metal player from the United States. We're getting up to the 6-2-1 record sort of threshold now. Again, also playing Luke Metal. Let's take a look at his run. So he beat Excadrill Control, beat Mew3 Welder, again lost to Blounds. Shout out to Joshua Sutherland. Beat Memonk, playing Pikarom. Shout out to Memonk. Beat ADP. He ID'd with Caquium here. Ended up winning the tournament with this Decidueye list, so, he probably get lucky here IDing. That matchup could have just gone forever, and I'm sure they were both probably in positions to where they didn't mind IDing. Beat Pikarom. Beat Tyne here playing E-turn. Then ended up losing to a Pikarom in top 16. But let's see if his Luke Metal list is any different than the one we just saw. Okay. So immediately we don't see a Scythian Caitlyn in this list, and we see an extra doll, and instead of hammers we see gears. Makes sense for Jake Gearhart, who's running gears. But okay, so this is like a super consistent version of Luke Metal. Very high counts of all the cards that we see here. Not a wide variety of cards, so like, you know, you get a lot of the same cards, which is good, right, for consistency purposes. I like this list, honestly. You know, I don't know exactly which one I would like prefer, but because I don't really play Luke Metal a whole lot. But I think both these lists have their advantages. Again, neither of them are running Aegislash or even a single prize attacker. But either way, you know, definitely a really cool list here. It's always fun to see like the 2 rows of, you know, of just cards, right? It's just funny to see. Sometimes you see this with E-Turn, so it's just funny to see. But yeah, man, I like the list, Jake. Great run in the tournament, bro. And yeah, congrats on getting 12th. Okay, so 2 Luke Metals down here. We don't see another Luke Metal in the tournament. So that was our Luke Metal fix for the tournament. Next up is Vinnie Fernandes from Brazil, 6-2, and this is our one Colossal in top 16. So I'll be very interested to see Vinny's Colossal list. Beat Lightning Mewtwo, beat ADP, beat Rillaboom Rowegg, beat Blounds, beat Pgarum, lost to ADP, beat Pgarum again, and then ID'd here against Blounds. Ran up against Caquium here. Running this Decidueye list. I'm sure he probably just didn't really tech for Decidueye like most people didn't, which is fine. You know, I wouldn't expect people to be honest with you, but we'll see. So let's see what. Let me stand up in my chair a little bit. I'm slouching. All right, let's see what his deck list looks like. Vinny, what are you rocking for us today? Let's see. Colossal, pretty new list, so it's always interesting to see what people are running. So he's got the 3-3 lineup, makes sense. 2 Orangurus, Dedenne, Crobat. We see a Surfetched, actually, which I like having Surfetched in this deck. Jirachi Prism Star, or not Prism Star, Jirachi Amazing Rare can be really good in this list for sure with that ability to put a card on the top of your deck. Mimikyu is interesting. I guess this just sort of makes the Mewtwo matchup that much easier if it wasn't that hard already, or if it wasn't, you know, a bit easy already. There's not really much in this deck that really like spreads damage, so it's interesting to see Mimikyu, but at the same time, like if you're running boss and stuff and great catchers, so you can always just like gust in one of those Mewtwo's and then just sort of like hit them, and now Mimikyu locks it down. That's always a good strategy, so it could be really good, actually. Interesting to see from Vinny. And then a Fion. Again, Fion's always really good as a gusting option. Standard supporter count, I think, like 4 Research, 3 Marnie, 2 Boss. We see 4 Quick Ball, 4 Hammers. A lot of people are just running Hammers in Colossal. Colossal can be a bit of a slower deck in terms of setting up, which means that, you know, you want to slow your opponent down as well. Hammers is the best way to do that. So we see Hammers a lot in Colossal. Makes a lot of sense. 4 Pokecoms on top of the Quick Ball, so 8 total Pokemon Search. On top of 2 at Capture Energy, so like 10 total Pokemon Search. 4 switches. The Great Catcher, buff padding, of course, goes really well with Colossal, brings it up to 380 HP, absolutely massive. 2 Air Balloon. The Air Balloon is probably for like Surfetched and like Oranguru, some of these other tech attackers, or just sort of tech Pokemon that you might have in the active spot that you don't want. Can also drop your Colossal's retreat cost down to 2, which I guess can be useful too. Martial Arts Dojo, of course, a card that's played a lot with Colossal, can be really good. And Wondrous Labyrinth, which is interesting. Colossal does set itself up after it attacks. So I guess if you're in a position to consistently use that first attack for 1 energy, then you can plop down a Wondrous Labyrinth and next turn, you know, not have to worry about attachments to get that first attack off yet again. Can be really good, I guess, to disrupt your opponent as well. So I like that in this deck. I like this inclusion. We see 6 normal fighting, 4 stone energy there, and then 2 capture energy. So Colossal does have a colorless energy in its attack cost, so capture energy does make a lot of sense. I like this inclusion. Cool deck list, a lot of different cards, right? So decks like this might struggle a little bit with consistently getting the card that you need, but at the same time, you know, most things in this deck are going to be useful, right? And you have plenty of ways to search through your deck, find cards between the Dennes, Crobats, Jirachis, Oranguru, all the Pokemon search. So there's a lot in this deck. There's a lot of different cards, but there's also a lot of consistency factors in here as well. If you're new, or if you really haven't seen a lot of Colossal lists, then, you know, this one could be a really cool one to try out. A lot of different Pokemon. Might be hard to build this list for new players, but Vinny knows what he's doing and had a great run in the tournament. What was he, 11th? Yeah, so 11th there with Colossal. Nice to see Colossal in top 16. Always nice to see sort of a newer archetype make its way into a decent placement in one of these tournaments. Next up is Findoco Luis. He is also from Indonesia, and he was playing the Lightning Mewtwo, 6-2. Let's take a look at his run. Look at this. Wow, just played 5 pground. Wild. Pground was the most played deck in the tournament, by the way. Not ADP. It was pground actually by a wide margin. Beat 2 pground, beat Decigoons, beat pground, lost pground, beat pground, beat Luke Metal, and then ID'd against ADP. Ended up losing to Kappa here, playing the one Scorch that was in top 16. So, probably pretty scary. Like, if you run into the one Scorch in top cut, you're probably, maybe a little bit nervous. Let's take a look at his list, though. It's probably going to be pretty standard as far as these Lightning Mewtwo lists go. Yep, pretty much exactly what everyone runs in Lightning Mewtwo for good reason. Great deck list. Azul, I think, won our Chill Series 10 with this deck list. Yeah, he did. I made a video on it. So he's got the Dedenes, Bolton, Mewtwo, Crobat, Naganadel, Surfetch, Deltagos, Vileplume, Pikarom, Choo-Choo, Tapu Koko, Prism Star, Vigaloul, and Greninja. This is honestly, like, people don't really change this list a lot because when it was created, it was a very sort of like specific deck list, and it did really well off the gate, and I think people are just sort of stuck to it. Other than that, I'm not going to just talk about it too much. I've done a separate video on pretty much this exact list. Seen a lot of success. It's a really good deck list. Really sort of like a high echelon of like skill difficulty to like both play this deck and go against it. So when players do well with this deck, I'm not surprised, but it's impressive, right, to know that people are very good at playing a deck with this much sort of with so many different things that you can do. It can be hard to play well with a list that's this complicated in a sense, if I want to say that about Pokemon. But big shout out to Findoco, man. Was that number 10 in the tournament with Lightning Mewtwo? I like it a lot. Go check out my video on the channel where I went through and analyzed this specific deck list, if you haven't seen it already. Next up is Gabriel Smart at number 9 there, just bubbled out of top 8. Gabriel Smart, great player. He got top 4 at that big 400 player tournament. Consistently places well in all these online events. This time he was playing Poison E-Turn from America, went 6-1 and 2. Let's take a look at his run. So didn't drop a single game in the 8 rounds of Swiss. Beat Flygon, beat Decigoons, Pikarom, ADP, Blounds, Pikarom, and then got 2 IDs right at the end there against ADP and another E-Turn. Ended up losing to Eddie here, playing E-Turn in top 16 there. Kind of a difficult sort of spot to be in where you play sort of the mirror matchup against another E-Turn. Let's take a look at his deck list, though. Let's take a look at his deck. So not Poison E-Turn. To keep in mind, this is sort of a widely accepted version of E-Turn, which is just sort of like a straight E-Turn with Goons and Tomb. People run Hoopa and E-Turn as well, but I guess Gabriel decided to run Spiritomb and Yveltal, which is definitely not a bad idea. He's got the 4-4-4 lineup here of E-Turns and Crobats, 4 Goons, and then he's got the 2 Spiritomb, 2 Yveltals as sort of single prize attackers in this deck. 4-4 Marnie, 3 Boss, 4 Switch, Quick Ball, Great Ball, and 2 Pokecom. So again, he's got do math. Okay, so he's got 10 ways to search Pokemon in his deck. 2 Stamps and 1 Dangerous Drill with 3 Power Plants. So actually, this is sort of like one of that new versions of E-Turn where it's sort of like a disruption version of E-Turn. He's not running Hammers, so it's not like a full sort of disruption build, but can be very disruptive with the Power Plants, Dangerous Drills, Reset Stamps. I like this list a lot, actually. So shout out to Gabe. I think, if you're looking to play E-Turn, this could be a very powerful list for sure. I think Poison is probably a bit more consistent with its damage output, but this one, might have a better, damage spread. Some people are running Hammers, like I said, in E-Turn. I don't know if that's entirely necessary, but at the same time, I think Dangerous Drill is really good, and Power Plant is also extremely good to run in E-Turn. If you're not running the Poison variant and you're running Dark City, I suggest that you play Power Plant. Very smart of Gabe to be doing that. But yeah, big shout out to Gabe. Someone who I'm friends with personally. So great player. Always good to see him do well in the tournaments. Now on to our top 8 players. We have Eddie Bulmer from Canada, 7-3, and this is who Gabriel lost to. So he is our second highest placing E-Turn. We actually had a lot of E-Turn in like top 16. Well, we had 4, but in the tournament we had a decent amount of E-Turn that placed well. Anyway, Eddie Bulmer from Canada. Let's look at his run. So he got beat Lapras, beat Lightning Mewtwo, lost or beat 1-2, and then lost to Blounds and Control. And then he beat 3 Blacephalon in a row. That must have been like a stressful time of Eddie's life here, playing 3 Blounds in a row. And then beat Renzo there playing ADP. Beat Gabe playing E-Turn, and then lost to Decidueye playing Kakui playing Decidueye. This Decidueye list, of course, won it all. We'll take a look at it later. I'll make a separate video on it as well. But great run from Eddie. Let's take a look at his list, see if it's any different than the other E-turns that we've seen so far. Okay, so similar to Gabe's list, except that he's running just one Hoopa, one Yveltal, instead of running like 2 Spiritomb and 2 Yveltal. So 2 less Pokemon, and the Hoopa's a bit different, other than the Spiritomb. He's running 4 Boss instead of 3, 4 Research, 3 Marnies. He's got the 4 Quick Ball, 4 Switch, 4 Great Ball, and 2 Pokécom, so that's standard, and he is running the Crushing Hammers. So like I said, some people are running Hammers in E-turn, and this again is sort of like another version of the Disruption E-turn list with the Hammers, Stamp, and Power Plant. And he's got the 9 Energy. A lot of people run either 9 or 10 Energy, I think, in E-turn, but yeah, very similar to Gabe's. I think the Hammers might have come in clutch in this matchup. Again, if you're playing somebody with Hammers, and they get lucky, then it's just going to make it more difficult for you. But at the same time, if you run Hammers and you miss them all, then you're at a disadvantage. So it's sort of like a luck-based sort of roll of the dice, but can be beneficial for sure. And I'm sure that Eddie had a good series of coin flips there with Crushing Hammers, which is gonna be the difference between you winning or losing a lot of times. So very nice, another sort of Disruption E-turn version of E-turn, and I like it a lot. So big shout out to Eddie there. Eddie Bulmer at number 8. Next up is Kapahab, and he is from Korea. Now, this is our only Centiskorch that made top 16. Our only Centiskorch for a long time here, up until like Riley Wales at 39. So 7th here, Kapahab, went 7-3. Take a look at his run. Beat ADP, beat E-turn, lost to Luke Metal, beat Pika, beat Blounce, lost to Pika again. Lost. So he went 1-1 against Pika's. Lost to Pika, beat Blounce, beat Decigoons, beat Lightning Mewtwo, and then ended up losing to ADP here. Interesting. So I'm sure he has some 2 prize Pokemon that he was putting on his bench if he lost to ADP. I'm sure. Let's take a look at his list. This is probably going to be sort of an ability Scorch. It is, with a wide variety here. If T-Brophy, if you're watching this, he's not running Giratina. So, yeah. There you go. Told you so. But anyway, he's got the 3-3 lineup of Scorch, 4 Jirachis, 2 Volcanion. These are your starting Pokemon. And then you also have your draw supports, Dedenne, Crobat, Eldegoss. Fion can be good for that gusting, and Heatran is, I think, just obviously really good in any sort of Centiskorch list that isn't greens, I suppose. Got 4 Welder, 3 Boss, 1 Research. If I were to play this deck, I'd probably play Marnie over Research, although he's running 1 Fire Crystal, so I guess Research is probably better anyway. 4 Quick Ball, 3 Scoop Ups, 3 Pokecoms. So plenty of Pokemon Search. The Scoop Up nets obviously are really good with the Jirachis and Volcanions and such. Stamps, 1 Catcher. Great Catcher is seeing a lot of play now recently. It's kind of coming back in the format, and I like it a lot. I like that people are playing Great Catcher again. Dedenne's everywhere, and there's plenty of other GXs that are still seeing play, so Great Catcher, very good card. 1 Crystal. I always get sketched out when I'm only playing 1 Crystal. Like, I always want to run 2, because, like, if I'm playing this deck or any other Welder deck and, like, Crystal's prized, or if it's, like, at the bottom of my deck and I can't seem to draw it ever throughout the game, I just sort of feel like having at least 2 is going to help. But he runs 1 Fire Crystal, 1 Giant Hearth, and then we see Wondrous Labyrinth again, kind of a throwback to have Wondrous Labyrinth in Centiskorch, and 12 Fire Energies, so I like this Centiskorch list. Again, like I said, with the whole T-Brophy thing, some people are playing Giratina in Centiskorch, which I think is a really good inclusion. Goes well with the Scoop Up nets, and it has helps a lot in a lot of matchup spreads. But the Fion can also be really good as well. Very good ability Centiskorch list here. Centiskorch is a very powerful deck. We haven't seen too many people play it in the last couple weeks. This tournament, we didn't have that many people play Centiskorch, but in my opinion, if we had more people playing this deck, we would have seen it more in top 16 for sure. But big shout out to Kapahab for being our highest placing Centiskorch, number 7 in the tournament. Next up is Francesco Cattorino from Italy. He's playing pground. This is our highest placing pground in the tournament. Let's look. Out of 37 pground, this was the meta. Out of 37 pground, he was our highest at number 6. So kind of a tough showing for pground in the tournament overall. But there was a ton of them if you look down here, like in top 32 and stuff. But anyway, let's take a look at his run. Lost to pground, beat ADP, Lapras, Lightning Mewtwo, Blounce, Centiskorch, Decigoons, and then ID'd against that Psychic Mewtwo. Beat Luke Metal, and then lost to Lucas there playing E-turn. So that was his run. Let's take a look at the list. Okay. I'm just trying to think here. So again, very standard pground, except he's running an extra Boltund, it looks like. Everything else is pretty much normal, unless I'm missing something. He's got the 4-4-4 lineup of supporters that is in every deck. The power 3, as you could call it. 4 quick balls switch, so he's running 3 radars, 2 stamps, 2 energy switches, 2 air balloons, 14 energies. I'm not exactly sure like what I'm missing that's not in this deck that was in other decks. I just can't really remember. But Cherish Ball. So he's not running Cherish Ball. And he's also running less energy switch, I guess, with an extra bolt. And other than that, yeah, it seems pretty standard. So again, these pground lists are going to be very similar. When you're playing pground, it's really just sort of all about like what your preference is when it comes to making the little tweaks about this deck specifically. But overall, it's a very consistent archetype. Interesting to note, like this is our highest placing pground, and he's got the extra energy there with the extra Boltund. So maybe a bit more consistent start game with more consistent speed energy. Manual attachments can be really good. But other than that, yeah, very similar to other pground lists, but a little bit different. So interesting. Maybe people should start tweaking pground a bit. I don't know. Definitely not the one to say. Definitely shout out to Francesco there for getting, was it sixth in the tournament with pground. Our highest placing pground in the tournament. Next up is Blasto Bro from the US playing Blounds, our highest placing Blounds in the tournament. Let's take a look at his run. So beat Blounds, ADP E-turn, lost to Colossal, which is definitely a tough matchup for him. Beat T-Brophy. Actually beat Mike Fouché here. Mike Fouché was, of course, the man who won our 400-man player tournament. Beat Luke Metal. ID'd against Vinny here playing Colossal, and then beat Luke Metal, and then lost here to the Psychic Mewtwo. Let's take a look at his Blacephalon list. Most of these lists are pretty similar. Okay. So a few things that are actually kind of spicy in this deck. He's running a few less energy. Some people run like 18 or 19 fire energy. He's running a little bit less energy, but he is running a Beast Springer, Telescopic Sight, which is interesting because he is running Cramorant. What else is different here? Maybe one less boss than so many people typically are, maybe. But other than that, it does look pretty similar. A little bit of spice here at the bottom with these tool cards. Maybe a little bit of spice with like having less energy. But other than that, it's pretty standard Blacephalon. All the lists are going to be similar, most of these deck archetypes that we're looking at. But very interesting to note that like the Beastbringer and Telescopic Sight, very cool inclusions into Blacephalon. And it's cool to see him get number 5 in the tournament with this Blacephalon list in particular. So big shout out to Blasto Bro. I think Blounds is a really good deck right now in the format. Definitely one of like the top few decks, and I feel like it should be played more. Next up is going to be pretty interesting to look at here, and this is a Psychic Mewtwo list from TCG from Italy. Italy representing here in top 8. Let's take a look at his run first of all. Beat ADP, Decigoon's Pikarom ADP, lost to E-turn. Beat Blounds ADP, and then ID'd against Pikarom. In top cut, he beat Pikarom, Blounds, and then lost to E-turn. So actually a wide spread of wins there for the Psychic Mewtwo list. I'm sure a lot of people are probably interested in checking this list out, so let's take a look at it. Not something you typically see. Okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, it's, again, like this is similar to other Mewtwo lists, except you'll see like this one's just focused around Psychic. He's got the Mewtwo. Trevenant and Dusk Noir is actually a really powerful card along with Mimikyu and Gengar GX. And he actually has the Solgaleo and Lunala in here as well, so he's got all of the Psychic tag teams just represented in this deck for sure. We see the Mega Lopunny can be, a decent little secondary attacker, I suppose, against Pokemon that other decks, that have a lot of GX Pokemon. Might be difficult to attach 3 Psychic Energy manually onto this guy, but it is what it is. We see the Rotom there with the Energy Assist and the Cycle Draw, really cool little single prize support Pokemon. The 2 Dedenne, Crobat, Naganadel also goes really well in this deck list for sure. Can be, again, a little bit harder to get 4 energies onto Mewtwo in this deck other than like a Welder deck, but Naganadel is still a really good win condition. We see the Eldegoss, of course, and then the Fion, so Very interesting deck. I like this Pokemon lineup here. This deck is looking to be very, very interesting for sure. Looking at supporters, we have a pretty wide count here too. 4 Marnie, 4 Research, 2 Boss. We do see a Cynthia and Kaylin, and we see a Jesse James. So I guess the Jesse James can go really well, I suppose, with Gengar Mimikyu, maybe even some other cards in the deck. But cool to see Jesse James in here. It might be kind of a niche inclusion, but definitely really cool. We see 4 Cherish Balls and we see 4 Hammers. So we're actually seeing Hammers now in Mewtwo lists. Actually sounds very scary, alongside things like Gengar, Mimikyu, and the other disruption cards that are in this deck. 4 Quick Ball on top of the 4 Cherish Ball. Ton of GX Pokemon in this deck, so that makes total sense. 4 Switch, 2 Stamps, 2 Tag Calls. Again, makes a lot of sense with all the Tag Team Pokemon in this list. And Cynthia and Kaylin. Does anyone feel like Jesse and James should be a Tag Team supporter as well? That's just me, I guess. Next up, we have 2 Air Balloons. Again, most things are going to have free retreat with the Air Balloon, so it makes sense. And then Chaotic Swell, and then a 11 Energy lineup. The Horror Energy probably was really clutch in this matchup as well. I like Horror Energy, honestly, myself a lot. But a very cool deck list, for sure. Definitely screen cap this one and try to play it later. Let me know what you guys think. Comment below, like, is this the new Mewtwo that's going to pop up now? Is this sort of the new, the new gas, I guess you could say. I don't know, man. Okay. Anyway, TCG, man, really cool. It's always good to see a unique list place well in the tournaments. I like this one for sure. I'm not saying it's like super unique, but it's unique for this tournament, right? We don't see it a lot really anymore. I like this a lot. So big shout out to you, man. And that was 4th in the tournament. Next is redground from the US, 8-1-2, playing ADP, so our highest placing ADP in the tournament. The only one in top 16, in fact. So I guess we'll take a look at an ADP list if you guys have never seen one before. As if you've never seen an ADP list before. Okay. Anyway, beat pground, ADP, Luke Metal, Rillaboom, Rowegg, Colossal, and then I got a couple IDs, so didn't lose a game in Top Cut. Shout out to redground. Red 5 ground, and then ID'd here against E-Turn and Lightning Mewtwo. Beat E-Turn, beat Scorch, and then ended up losing here in semifinals against Kakwium, who destroyed this tournament with the Decidueye. Once he got into Top Cut, it was nobody knew what to do, right? Nobody could do anything, really. Let's take a look at the deck when it loads. Okay. And it's ADP. I guess it's kind of cool. We run 3 Zacian instead of 4. 2 ADPs. We see an Orgrew and an Eldegoss in here. Can be cool. With Crobat and Mawile. So a little bit different, I suppose, I guess, with the Pokemon count. Nothing too different. Just sort of maybe a little bit different. Supporter counts pretty standard, except we only see 1 Marnie, and we see a Leon in here, which is, again, a little bit different. Since Vivid Voltage came out, I guess this is a viable sort of inclusion to be an ADP for sure. With the boost, Zacian goes up to 260 for the ADP boost. With Leon goes to 290, which is definitely enough to KO every other tag team card. So it can be really good, I guess. Excuse me, in like the Mewtwo matchup or the ADP Ditto. We see Metal Saucer, Quick Ball, Energy Switch. Yep, all the standard stuff. Normal Switch, Cherish Balls. Interesting to see Cherish Ball in here. 3 Cherish Balls with only 5 GX Pokemon, but I guess consistency is important in this deck. 3 Spinners for the 3 Water Energy. Great Catcher to go along with the 4 Boss. Plenty of gusting options. 2 Air Balloon, 2 Chaotic Swell, and then that 9-3 standard energy count for ADP. Very cool. Again, ADP is ADP. Some of you people aren't going to like it, but it wouldn't be an online tournament without ADP getting at least 1 representation in Top Cut. So big shout out to Red 5 Ground for being our big ADP guy for this tournament. I don't know. Okay, number 2 in the tournament, Lucas Nascimento from Brazil. So our 2 finals competitors were from Brazil. Very cool to see. Both of them accumulated 31 points, but Kakwium ended up just taking the win here. It was a difficult game in general, right? It was difficult because Lucas was playing E-Turn. Not a whole lot of cards in his deck that could deal with Decidueye. He had a few, but still very difficult. We'll take a look at his list, though, or his run, rather. Beat Mad Party, ADP, Pikarom. Beat 2 Psychic Mewtwo's, actually. Beat Scorch, Pikarom, and ID'd. So I got 1 ID. Went, was it 7-1 in 701 in Swiss. Cool. That's actually a really good run. Probably the best run we've seen so far. Beat pground, beat Lightning Mewtwo, and then, of course, ended up losing to Kakweem in the finals. Let's take a look at Lucas's deck list. Let's see what we're working with here. Yep. So, again, kind of a straight E-turn version. A little bit of disruption between the power plants and the reset stamps, but no hammers. But other than that, looks pretty standard. We see the 4 Zigzagoons. We see a Hoopa and a Yveltal. He might have probably wished he ran Spiritomb in this deck. Might have made it a little bit easier, I guess, for him to play, or to go up against the Decidueye deck that Kakweem played. But either way, it's going to be a very tough matchup for him. But everything else looks pretty standard. Of course, he's got the 11 ways to search Pokemon, the switching, 10 energies, standard supporter count. Except he's running 4 Boss, actually, and 2 Marnie, which is, I guess, a little bit different. Whoops. And, yeah. I mean, this is like the 5th E-turn we've seen today, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. Very cool to see E-turn in Grand Finals. But, you know, always tough when you go against a Decidueye somehow in Grand Finals. And, you know, you ended up just taking the L. You know, I mean, there's nothing else you can really do about it, right? So, definitely really tough. Anyway, big shout out to Lucas, man. I you know, had an incredible run through the tournament. Unfortunate matchup in the Grand Finals match. But an incredible run through the tournament. E-turn being very powerful in this tournament specifically. And, yeah, man. Definitely really cool. Next up is Kakweem's list. Let's take a look at his Kakweem's run. So lost his first match of the tournament against Blounds, and then dodged Blounds all the way throughout the rest of the tournament. That was the only game that he lost and the only time he played Blacephalon. Got a win against ADP, Lightning Mewtwo, E-turn, Control. I got that, you know, ID'd again against Luke Metal there. Didn't want to play that. And then he beat E-turn in Colossal again. So only lost one game in, you know, in Swiss. And then in Top Cut, beat Colossal, beat E-turn, beat ADP, and then beat E-turn again. So again, all of these 4 decks, E-turn, E-turn again, ADP, and Colossal, these are decks that probably didn't tech for Decidueye. Things like ADP might be running Aegislash. Again, E-turn does run some single prize attackers, but things like Colossal, like, there's really not much that these decks are going to be able to do against Decidueye, especially considering that Colossal is weak to Decidueye, and so is, like, a lot of the single prize attackers in Eternatus, like Hoopa. So, definitely can be very, very difficult. Kakweem, very smart of a good meta call. As always, guys, I'm going to leave you on a cliffhanger because I'm going to be making a separate video on Kakweem's Decidueye list. If you guys want to check out the list, you can just come up here on the Limitless page and check it out. He also posted it on his Twitter, so you can go check out his Twitter or my Twitter where I retweeted him if you want to check out his list. I'm not going to just talk about it because, like, I'm going to make a separate video here, like, tomorrow about the whole deck list and go in depth on it, so I just don't want to do it twice. I hope you understand. Tune in for tomorrow or maybe the next day. Who knows? I might be lazy. We'll see if I ended up making that video. I'll make it eventually. I just don't know when. I have a few videos in the works, so we'll see. I also need to make a video on Mike Fouché's list as well. But anyway, yeah, that's our top 16 players, excluding Kakweem, but we'll cover him later. Thank you again for everyone who came and played at the Chill Series number 11. It was a great way to kick off Season 2. Great collection of players, great turnout. You know, I had a lot of fun. And, yeah, I'm going to leave you guys on that. So this coming Wednesday, of course, Chill Series 12. We do them every week. It's going to be great, going to be even better. So definitely come tune in for that if you know, enjoyed playing in Chill Series 11 or if you just want to play in a Chill Series tournament. Coming up on Wednesday. We also have one on Sunday, this coming Sunday, just in like 3-4 days from now. It's actually an event sponsored by GG Tours, the Chill TCG Showdown. And this is sort of a unique event, similar to our $500 2-day regional style event a couple weeks ago. This is going to be a $250 cash prize pool tournament, except it's going to be a single-day tournament. So think of it sort of as like a smaller, half as big version of our 400-man tournament. So I'm very excited for this tournament coming up. Big shout out to GG Tour for sponsoring us, and you know, definitely come check it out and come play in it. Link to register will be in the description down below. It's going to be a great tournament. Went up to, I think, like $100 cash prize. So definitely super cool. If you guys are looking to play in an event, maybe win some cash, maybe win some clout. Who knows? Definitely come check it out on Sunday, or come and play in the Chill Series event on Wednesday as well. So that's it, guys. I'm gonna sign out here. If you're watching it 40 minutes exactly into this video so far, if you're not subscribed, go subscribe. It of course helps me out a lot. Like the video, helps for the YouTube algorithm. Comment below what deck was your favorite. What deck are you surprised you didn't see in here? Yeah, just let me know what you thought. I will see you guys soon, and have a good day.